thing up, whatever it's called, the on-screen interface as opposed to the little one on the phone. As usual, because I'm doing it on my phone, the audio quality and lighting won't look as good as when I use the DJI, but because I use that for a video today, I've had to put it on charge. And also, like I said, if you use that for too long in the stream, it kind of gets a bit too hot for my liking, even though it's meant to turn itself off if it overheats. And what was the other thing I was going to say? I think when I do them on the phone, it still sends them to more people than when I use that as a proper camera. I mean, that's very good for the normal videos, but for a live stream, the phone is what YouTube seems to like you using more, because I can then, like I say, go on the PC, click here now, change the settings to how I normally have the settings, and then I can have live chat, and it means that I've got the moderation up on here as well as the phone. And what's good is it means if I accidentally close the browser or whatever, it doesn't break the stream. So as long as I keep my phone like that, it's absolutely fine. So yeah, hopefully people are all right. So I'm actually gonna, all right, Rich. So yeah, like I said, I'm actually gonna do a Pathways sequel. All right, Blue Ronster. I'm actually gonna do that Pathways sequel video with more effort in it in the next couple of days. Like I said, it's just gonna be when I get time to do it. I did a load more assets for it today, but otherwise I'm still just doing other stuff. But like I said, the video today was just more talking about what people had correctly identified, that the thing literally has got the plot of 1984, sorry, where getting referred to Prevent is getting sent to the Ministry of Love. And in the end, Charlie loved Big Brother. So, yeah, obviously that's still doing really well, that video. I think the views now have kind of stabilized where they're, you know, like very consistent per hour now. They're not going absolutely crazy like they were before, but it's still way more popular than my current videos. But sometimes you get with YouTube with a video like that as well, it will send it to a load of people and it will go crazy for a bit. The views normalize off, and then YouTube seems to send it out again to an even bigger amount. So, got my massive bottle of water there. So yeah, let me have a look at the stats and I'll tell you how it's doing anyway. Because like I said, I've been trying to keep up the comments on that, and I just can't, because sometimes, you know, I'll do something for an hour, come back, there'll be loads of comments that are held for review that I either need to allow or like deny or whatever. Most of them I allow because it's just where people have used a slightly spicy word. Some of them I've actually had to block because it's where people are actually calling for real world violence in those comments, not jokingly, but, you know, saying, oh, I'm fed up with this country, I want to put a bomb somewhere, you know, that kind of thing. So those people I'm obviously blocking because I don't want to get sent to gulag in reality, because I'm allowing that kind of stuff in my videos. But yeah, in general, there's just so many comments that although I try and reply to them and heart them and whatever, it gets a bit difficult just because of the sheer amount of comments. So, yeah, so at the moment, yeah, in the past 48 hours, 104,731 views, or just gone up to 737 on that Pathways one, because until about 10 a.m. tomorrow, it won't actually be 48 hours. So it's still got like another, so yeah, when it gets to 10 p.m. tonight, it'll be 12 hours, won't it? So it's still, yeah, got like 16 hours or so to go before it even gets to the, like, you know, 48-hour threshold for how many views it got in the first 48 hours. Like I said, it, for whatever reason, the views on that are set, you know, were absolutely insane. Because, yeah, on one screen it says it's got 84k views, but on the real-time one it says it's got 104k views. And if I go on it, in the analytics, it's earned me 562 new subscribers, that one video. So, yeah, it's obviously quite popular, even though it's not my normal kind of content. Sorry, let me go back to the chat and we'll catch up what I was saying. Okay, so I've got somebody spamming with something that's completely unrelated to the channel. Goodbye. Hopefully I don't need to put the mode on where you have to be a sub to join. But yeah, somebody asking like some question about boxing or whatever, I don't know, and then spamming a question about boxing, so that has nothing to do with the channel. Goodbye. But yeah. All right, Cookie TGX. So yeah, like I said, so I've done another video today on Pathways, if you didn't see it. That one hasn't gone anywhere near as crazy for views, but it's still doing well for views. And it's about, like I said, where people were bringing it up, and then I ended up talking about it for, you know, 10 minutes, having a proper discussion about it, is how, you you know, it is literally the plot of 1984 they've ripped off the Pathways. So despite the fact it's dystopian Orwellian, they've made it even better by the fact that, you know, the plot is 1984 in the sense Charlie is Winston. Amelia is, what's her name? Fuck's sake, I've forgotten, even though I should know. I knew what it was earlier when I was talking about it. And now my brain's gone blank. Julia, that's it. And, you know, our Prevent is the Ministry of Love. What's banned now, Paul? Bearing in mind, with that Prevent thing, apparently they've put it back up, that game. Let's see if I can get on it. Pathways. Play now, but apparently people are saying, again, even though they've put it back up, they've cut a load of content out of it. Right, it's loading up. Right, while I'm doing this, I'm just going to go back through Pathways and pick all the worst options. I mean, the best options. So, again, you won't be able to see us here. So I'm going to download the video. My social credit score has gone to red. I'm then going to shout out in class about foreigners taking our jobs. Because I want to see if, Amelia's still in that scene. But apparently they cut some of Amelia out, but we'll see. Right, it's about Muslims getting British people put into the streets to become homeless. Engage with a post directly. This seems unfair. Again, minus 9,000 social credit. Then I'm going to share Amelia's video because Amelia makes good memes. I'm then going to... you can actually click through this really fast if you just click next, next, next on everything and don't even let it read out. Agree to join in based on what you're hearing. And then get the ending. Charlie thought about all the difficult choices they had needed to make in the last few weeks. Some of their choices had led to changes in friendship, blah, blah, blah. The teacher comes and sits next to you. What if Charlie had made more harmful choices? So, yeah, again, they've still got the bad ending cut out where you team up with Amelia. They've still made the medium ending and the bad ending the exact same thing. So, yeah, it's the censored version of the game, even though they've put it back up. So they've cut the Amelia content out of it quite drastically. Yep. And yeah, thanks, Rich. Don't forget to like the stream. And yeah, Kevin, yeah, two-based. So yeah. Because yeah, I literally had somebody earlier in the comments saying to me, like, the game's still up. I could play it, you lying chud. And it was kind of like that kind of comment. And I was like, yeah, but at the point I did the video, they had taken it down for like 24, 48 hours. Yeah. Yeah, I know the one, Snoz. The BBC had a thing on it and the Telegraph. It's actually in really good condition, isn't it? All the brick underneath. It's a real shame about that. There's only one bit of the top concrete on the 4 bits around the main entrance bit that's fallen off. But what's a real shame, and again, I don't know what it would weigh in ROC post. It's a shame you can't get something like a Me-6 or a Me-26 helicopter and airlift it out and then just put it in my garden. I'd love that, but... yeah, it's a shame because, like I said, the actual outside brick and everything is in really good condition. Although that is an interesting one because it's made of brick, the outside, not concrete. Because most ROC posts, they did the thing where, you know, once they dug the shape out for them, they put, like, the wood beams in or whatever and, you know, poured the concrete into the beams to make all the bits. But that one is specifically one that's got bricks. Again, I don't know how much brick versus concrete makes in terms of radiation protection. But, you know, the bricks are in incredibly good condition. Yeah, they censored their own propaganda because people liked Amelia too much. So now they've made it that they've kind of done a weird thing where Charlie doesn't get in trouble no matter what Charlie does. But if Charlie had been worse, you get a Prevent ending. So how it used to work, apparently, especially with the cut content, at least this is what we're going to guess, is that how, you know, originally it was Charlie can be a nice person and pick A. Red Brick, Rich, let me get you an article up on it. Because, again, sadly, I can't link to the Telegraph one or upload the images directly on here because of how I'm streaming. But, and again, BBC thing is so shit that I've just searched ROC post and it doesn't know what I'm looking for, even though they had the thing for it the other day. All right, here we go. Nuclear bunker near collapse due to erosion. And again, the ones on the BBC, the pictures aren't as good as the ones with... there we go. But yeah, if you look at that, notice how good condition the bricks are in, especially if you go to the first proper picture down after the two people next to each other, Rich. Again, there were much better, higher resolution things on the Telegraph, but I do like how you can see the topsoil, all the earth, and then all the nice red bricks still. I don't do ham radio or anything, so not related to me. Like I said, I've got some encrypted radios and stuff like that, but I don't transmit anything or whatever. But I can dial them into frequencies and listen if I want to. But yeah, you only need a license if you're talking on whatever frequencies. You don't need one for like Baofengs and all the equivalent ones of bigger ranges just to listen into stuff. So yeah, going back to EQ, what you were saying, how the game originally worked, or we can gather from looking at the files, is that there were three endings. There is the one that was the government approved good ending, where Charlie is, really woke and everything. And then Charlie has all these maybe multicolored friends that are all various genders and whatever else. That was the good ending, according to them. Then the medium ending was actually the worst ending, because the medium ending was the one where, because Charlie had looked at some harmful things, all right, Rajiv, but hadn't gone, his social credit was neutral rather than positive. Because Charlie had, looked into things and stuff like that, he just literally loses all his friends. Like Amelia doesn't like him because he's not based enough, but also what do you call it? Doesn't so Amelia doesn't like him because he's not based enough, but he doesn't go to prison. But he may or may not get referred to prevent because because he's isolated all his friends. And then, like I was saying, because that's the only bit that's confusing, because they bring up all the prevent stuff, but the other extreme ending is the one where Charlie goes to prison when him and Amelia have the signs out, whatever, doing that with the banners, and then the cop turns up. It's not even a British cop. All right, cool, Rajiv. Like I said, I wasn't in last night anyway. Yeah, they used that stuff. What's it called? Like bitumen or something like that. You'll know what I mean, Rich. It's like the old tar-based stuff. They used to paint that in ROC posts underneath one of the layers. It has a name like bitumen. It might not be bitumen. Like, it sounds like you're saying bitch, but it's, like it's not pitch either, but it's like some sort of, like old kind of, It's going to move that a bit so I'm not craning my neck as much. Is it bitumen? It's called something like that. That they basically use to, like watertight them. But yeah, like I said, the old ones, like I said, most of them do use concrete ROC posts. So why that one's brick, I don't know. But it could have just been at the time they needed an ROC post there, and they didn't have the infrastructure to get the concrete in, so they just used bricks, because you can obviously do it more easily with bricks. But yeah, like I said, it's in remarkably good condition if you look at the outside of the bricks. They've obviously been preserved by all the ground and everything. But like I said, it's a shame that's going to topple over the side. If I lived near there, what I'd actually do is I'd visit it every day. And on the day it topples over and breaks, I'd actually go inside it and see if there's anything worth looting before it all gets, like washed out to sea or whatever. Because depending on when they locked it up, it could be one that still has all its original gear in it. Or it could be one, where the government had previously emptied it, or it had previously, been sold off and emptied out. And now it's just, an empty hole that's locked up with a padlock. But again, like I said, it's a real shame nobody can heli lift it out or get a crane or whatever. And then you can have it delivered to have like your prefab nuclear bunker pit in your house. Because that's the funny thing, is all the bricks are holding it together still in like its proper shape, despite the fact they're, not in the ground anymore. So it's testament to how well they used to build stuff in this country, unlike now. But yeah, EQ, so yeah, now all you get is, if you do the worst choices, they tell you that you might not even get sent to reform. Like if Charlie was not reform, I keep saying that, like Nigel's gonna, Charlie, you're not radical enough, we're gonna send you to Mr. Farage to radicalize you. I don't know, Zach, because like I said, it's not like you get a thing of how many people answered it in this way. But like I said, this game's horribly backfired on them for the obvious reason that it's basically to indoctrinate kids into never questioning authority and anything like that. And the result it's had is everybody's just turned Amelia into a waifu. So it's completely, not worked for them. But yeah, how many people in the UK want to destroy this country through shitty policies? Probably quite a lot. But also bear in mind the weird thing of Labour and Starmer is Starmer, although he got a big majority government, didn't have a huge amount of people voting for him. It was that weird situation that because the Tories were so unpopular, Labour kind of won by default. Oh, and if you're coming onto the stream now, by the way, people, don't forget to give me a like, because sometimes that helps YouTube share stuff. And Roger was saying he was watching some amazing footage of Nintendo of America's headquarters in the early 90s. 275 workers all hand assembling the consoles and carts, etc. I've got cartridges. Shame it's not that. Yeah, so when people could legit say, my dad worked at Nintendo, when they'd come up with all the bullshit like cheat codes and that. But yeah, so now, unlike the 3 different endings you could have got, like I said, it just literally, it seems if you do anything but the good ending, you're literally told, oh, it's all right, Charlie, even though you did everything based, you're not getting referred to prevent, but you could have been referred to prevent. So they've really had to tone it down, because like I said, a lot of the media that wasn't like the BBC and that were showing it as well and going like, here's how they're trying to scare children into saying that, you know, you question anything, you're being referred to the sort of anti-terror police, you know, or being outright arrested and going to prison. So yeah, now they've toned that down. And I bet you're going to get some people that pretended that stuff was never in the game and be like, no, see, it was always just a very kind-hearted thing about being acceptant and tolerant of people and whatever else. Like I said, I pulled that off of my body armor earlier so I could have that back out for when I did the video. But annoyingly, again, it doesn't stick to clothes like this, the patches like that, because they're obviously for body armor. Right, I saw Black Belt Barristers thing on it, Cookie. So this is the thing, isn't it, where the BBC wants to put content directly on YouTube, but then say because they're doing that, everybody who uses the internet needs to pay a TV license. And if that's the case, they can absolutely go fuck themselves. Because I was literally having this conversation with a friend earlier, and we were saying that, you know, again, the BBC really needs to be fucking defunded. And what they need to do with the BBC is making it a subscription service that you can't watch unless you pay for it, like lots of other subscription services. And that's how they get their money, or with advertisements as well. And the BBC needs to stop being this stupid institution that's absolutely crap, but literally, you know, ransoms money off of people via the TV license. Because again, what they seem to be doing is making it harder and harder for you not to have a TV license. Because it used to be, you could just not have an aerial cable connected to your TV, say, and like, you know, just have a TV with a DVD player attached. And then you wouldn't need a TV license, because you'd basically say, I don't actually watch any live TV whatsoever, not even ITV or whatever. You know, anything I watch is via DVD or by playing on a console or whatever, if I use the TV for anything. Otherwise, I just use the PC. And I think the agreement there was as long as you didn't watch live TV on iPlayer, and I believe you could actually watch playback of stuff on iPlayer originally, just not live TV, you weren't breaking the rules. But now they've made it, I think if you watch anything on iPlayer or if you've got the TV set up, you know, you need a license. And now they're trying to find even more ways of getting a TV license. Because basically it's one of those things where they're, like I said, rather than improving their own service, they're just trying to ransom people for money. So again, I hope like I said, if I lived in my own thing, I wouldn't have a TV license. I wouldn't have a fucking regular TV, because I don't really watch TV. Like I said, I watch stuff on YouTube, you know, and I have Amazon Prime and stuff like that video. But why would I want to watch any crap that's on the BBC? Right, it goes into the BBC, Zach, so the British Broadcasting Corporation, which is kind of separate from the government, kind of not. And that money is meant to go towards their own programming and paying for staff and everything else. But again, the BBC has had so many scandals in the UK, you know, where they're very biased. Again, my left-wing friends think they're biased right-wing. Everybody else I know thinks they're biased left-wing. But the point is nobody likes them. This is the funny thing, a bit like Labour. So if you're a socialist, you think they're too right-wing. If you're right-wing, you think they're too commie. They're basically just shit woke lords is the answer to that. Not that they're really, you know, necessarily left or right. They're just progressive, or whatever the term you want to use is. And then as a result, so they don't please anyone with that sort of content. And of course, they keep having all the scandals, which we need to keep holding them to account for, that they have lots and lots of paedophiles that have worked for them over the years that have raped children. and that when they worked for the BBC, they were never fucking fired and had their details handed over to the police like any sort of responsible employer would have done if it found out their employees were diddling kids. The BBC would always sweep it under the carpet. So again, Jimmy Savile was one of their famous people. Rolf Harris. We had Hugh Edwards, the newsreader, recently, who was messaging underage boys and sending them dick pics and stuff like that. And I think, by the way, of Hugh Edwards, even after they technically fired him, they still gave him like a massive pension thing, didn't they, or whatever, that was out the taxpayers' money. I have no idea regarding reform and their firearms policy because I'm just going to tell somebody I'm on, by the way, because they just messaged me, so they might not know I'm live. But yeah, I don't think Reform Veg said anything in any of their manifestos about firearms policy, just because they probably don't, even if they're quite pro-gun. I doubt they want to put that in a lot of the stuff, just because, again, they want to be, what they basically want to be, Reform, is just trying to appeal to people as a sensible kind of right-wing party without anything in that causes a problem. Because I think Reform's going to, I'll get back to you in a second, Alucard. But I think the problem is for Reform, a bit like, any of the parties coming up to the last election, they just want to seem sensible and credible. Because Reform already has the problem where there's other right-wing parties that are going to split the vote, just like Labour's vote's going to be split between them and the Greens and maybe Lib Dems. Because, again, this is the problem you get quite often, is that people don't work with each other. So where everybody is like, Labour's terrible and we should get rid of them, the problem is on the right. Everybody will then keep arguing with each other, start splitting into smaller parties when they have arguments, but will then split the vote, which means Labour could still stay in. Yeah, it doesn't say, yeah, you get right, Rich. It doesn't say Amelia's wrong. It's just wrong. It's just wrong think. Yeah, it could factually be correct, but you're not allowed to point it out. Yeah, don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe your lying ears. Yeah, I've seen that, Kevin. Again, the funny thing is with TV license people is because they're not actually police, you can just say to them, fuck off, you can't come in. They can't actually get a search warrant or whatever to get in. Apparently, most of the time when they catch people sort of thing, it's where people think they have to let them in and then they come in and see you've got like a wired up TV or whatever. Or they get you to admit to doing something even if you hadn't, kind of because... Again, you shouldn't really speak to anybody like that without a lawyer. But they're kind of like that really dodgy area of not being real police, but kind of acting like they're police. Yeah, I don't know, Willow, in all honesty. I'll read your thing probably in a second. But right, just for Arsenator. Oh, not Arsenator, sorry. Who was it asking? Alucard. What do you think is the most robot-looking gas mask? Or robot or robust? Robot-looking mask. The German M2000, like I've said before, is kind of a bit insectoid robot looking. Maybe American M17s as well, just because of the big, like, stormtroopery kind of face piece. I don't think that many masks make you look like a robot. But yeah, in regards to, what I imagine, Willow, is like, yeah, if they're losing too much revenue some way, they are going to try and find some really sneaky way of just getting revenue. Like I said, and I don't know how they're going to do that, whether it's going to be, oh, we're putting stuff on YouTube, so there we do that. Yeah, so like you're saying, it could be that they have a YouTube channel with memberships and all that to try and get some money in that way if they're not getting as much. Yeah, XM28, the Grasshopper, is, yeah, quite cool and robot-y looking. Again, that's similar to the M17, isn't it? Because it's a cheek filter style mask. But yeah. I'm trying to think, maybe Soviet PBF. That kind of looks like it might be off some sort of droid in Star Wars, the PBF, because it's got the, the big cheek filters and the sort of round eyepieces and the big kind of cover on the front of the voice diaphragm, or that one. So yeah, maybe Soviet PBF as well, but probably if you're saying robot looking, something. All right, so this one is my normal thing. This thing I got today, because I got a few compasses recently, is a dive compass. So they're designed for use underwater, but you can use them on land, but you have to kind of read them in a weird way. So I'll take it off and show you how it works. But to read it, you look at it like that and look at actually where the, you don't read the degrees if you're looking at it like this. You just look at where the, and again, the problem is this room has so many things that are steel and magnetic in. It fucks with the reading, but that's just about right there, how it is. But yeah, how you use it, because these are really cool. And again, this is, I think, because Sunto moved to China, I think this is where the same factory makes them without the Sunto brand on for like 10 to 20 pounds, but the Sunto ones are 70 pounds just because it's got a brand on it. So anyway, it obviously looks like a regular compass from the top, but what the really cool thing is with these is you've got a window there, look, so you can look through that, and wherever you're looking and the red line stops is the bearing you're currently moving in. So obviously you can see that obviously it rotates around because it's a compass. Obviously, if you read the stuff top down, you have to do the opposite of what, like, you know, the north-south direction bit is correct wherever it's pointing, but the bearing, you ignore the bearing bit because the bearing is specifically for that window. But yeah, I just thought it'd be cool to get one because at some point I'm going to do a video on the various types of compasses. But dive compasses are cool if you want a really robust compass because, again, they're built like the Soviet wristwatch compasses, which are like this, but the Soviet wristwatch compasses are absolute bollocks and shit. So, you know, as in, I barely trust it as a compass for a compass bearing, and they're absolutely terrible if you want accurate bearings on them, things like that. But they work in the exact same way, where they work with a, you know, like a wrist strap on, and then you do that to look at it, you know, where you'd hold up, well, you need to hold your arm flat like that. But in this one, obviously, you look on either from the top or you look on through the, like, you know, you do that with it, basically, look at it on your wrist with your wrist flat to get your bearing while you're looking at. So you'd move your arm like that to see what you're looking at, and then you get your bearing. But yeah, essentially a dive compass is the Soviet watch style compass, but made to a good standard. Because like I said, I actually kind of like the idea of a watch style compass. The problem is just the Soviet ones are like, how do we make, you know, really cheap, shitty compasses for a mass conscript army? And again, part of the problem with the Soviet ones is that because they don't have a good case, magnetic fields fuck with a compass really easily. So again, if you've got a gun on you and like the steel helmet and everything else, literally every part of your gear is going to be constantly fucking with a compass's reading unless you're holding it right out like that. And that's even ignoring that you're not near power lines or anything else. Where, again, going back to well-made compasses, I don't have the American one as handy at the moment, but say like this British, like I said, very nice British one that I've repaired now. These are designed that the nice big thick brass case with the little hole in the bottom means that, you know, lots of things aren't going to fuck with it. Like, say, if you had a rifle next to you, you're kind of got shielding from other magnetic fields. But yeah, so this is a very nice compass, this one. I like it a lot. But like I said, the only problem with this one is that, you know, it's a bit faded. The tritium's completely non-glowing anymore in that one. But they're very nice compasses anyway. The beep, right, every TV in the UK, obviously, we used to have cable and stuff in the UK, but the BBC is basically, everything uses Freeview now. So that's basically, you know, like aerial. So antenna, a digital antenna. And it's just that, you know, the BBC is some of the channels you receive on that. But there's no way, annoyingly, and again, this should be an option for people, but it's not, because we were saying where the BBC should be subscription. There's sadly no way that you can have an aerial and an antenna or whatever and say, I don't want to receive BBC channels, therefore, you know, have all the channels that have advertisements on. So even if you have an antenna on your TV, you know, your roof or whatever, and you're wired into it, even if you never ever watched a BBC channel, you'd have to pay a TV license because you're equipped to watch a BBC channel. Taste in music, I like quite a few genres: metal, classical, industrial. I basically, a lot of soundtracks. If the music sounds all right, I like it, but, you know, so there's some genres of music I don't even really listen to the genres, but there are tracks I like from that. But, you know, it just depends. But in general, I like kind of a lot of sort of rocky sort of heavier metal stuff, soundtrack wise. So like the original Command and Conquer soundtracks, think Fine Fluke, if you've ever heard of them, that are like a 90s German industrial band that did quite heavy industrial. Yeah, Kevin, I don't know. Sometimes it's the casing of the stuff, because like I said, I know with all these things that, like I said, that certain metallic things are worse than others with compasses. And again, it depends on, I think, in the steel of something. If I think pure stainless steel is apparently fine with a compass, but the problem is, you know, like most steels still have whatever amount of iron in. you know, that obviously is magnetic. They used to lie about having detector vans, which was a made-up scare tactic to catch people. But in reality, I mean, I've never seen anyone, again, I suppose you wouldn't see anyone with it, with an indoor aerial. Normally when you see aerials, like back in the day when we had analog TV, yeah, you did used to sometimes have the bunny ear things that would go on top of it. You know, you put them on top of your CRT and everything. But nowadays, most people just have like quite a big looking mast on their roof. Now, again, interesting thing is if you lived in a, let's say, a big block of flats or something, where, you know, it's like a big communal mast on the top rather than it being you've put a mast on your own roof for your own thing. Without them going in and checking, I don't know how they'd know. Because if you knew somebody was going to come round and check, all you'd have to do is just pull your aerial cable out of the wall between your wall socket and the TV, hide that somewhere and be like, look, I'm not connected to the wall at all. Not really drum and bass, but like I said, with a lot of things, if there's a track that sounds all right, you know, I'll probably like it as long as, you know, I think it sounds all right. But I don't, you know, like I said, it's not, for me, it's not too much a genre thing. It's just how much effort was put into a music track, you know, how good are the melodies and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so I'd assume, Kevin, with the EOTechs or whatever, it's probably just a case of like the steel or whatever they used, assuming that there's not something else in them that affects it, like the type of battery in there and stuff like that. But yeah, so like I said, this has a really nice loom, actually, saying that for a cheapo compass. Because like I said, I'm pretty sure, like I said, I can't say for absolute certain, but I'm pretty sure this is literally the Sunto dive compass that's made by the same factory. Just if you buy it without the Sunto branding on it, it's like, you know, a third or a quarter of the price. There is a tiny little bubble in here as well that it came with, because, yeah, this is apparently, again, one of the problems with compasses made in China. And this isn't like a thing of like every Chinese factory is like this, you know, everything built in China is crap. But apparently a massive problem has been, since a lot of the really good compass manufacturers moved to China for cheaper mass production, they don't build them in vacuum chambers anymore. So when they fill them up with whatever liquid, you always get a bit of a bubble. You know, sometimes it's a really, really tiny one you basically can't see. Other times you get quite a big bubble. But, you know, it's like compasses made by most of the proper companies, if they were a liquid compass, always used to be put together in a pressure chamber so air couldn't seep in when they sealed it all up. I haven't seen that in ages, Bravo 20. I did weirdly think about that the other day because of the Iran war for some reason, with all the stuff going on with Iran. I know that's Iraq in like the Gulf War period, isn't it? Let me just look on IMFDB and see if they've got a page for it. But yeah, they've got like ARs and that, haven't they, in it? M16s. Although apparently they're actually civilian sporters, I've just read on here, that they're mocked up to look like M16A2s or whatever. But yeah, I'm just going to have a look now, just in case I can find a picture of his on the compass on. Oh yeah, I think in one of the angles I can see it. So yeah, it's like where Sean Bean's looking that way, it's on the left side of his rifle. Yeah, but I'm just trying to see if I can get a better picture of it than the one I've got up here. But yeah, that probably would fuck with it. And you'd have to turn the rifle flat to the ground anyway to get the bearing thing to work. Yeah, I can't get any other good pictures up of that. But yeah, I'm assuming it might be that somebody who was actually in the SAS for that mission or whatever said they like strapped the compass to their rifle for storage or something. And then in the film, they've made it always prominently appear there like it's some tactical attachment. Trent Reznor, let me look up some of his stuff. The name sounds familiar, but again, with a lot of composers like that I might have listened to some of their stuff, it's sometimes, you know, one of those things where, you know, like you'll recognize the music when you hear it, but you wouldn't recognize them from their name. I'm just looking for their IMDb now to see, or should I say his IMDb? Because I'm saying there like it's fucking the game that we were on about. I did Black Ops 2, but not Black Ops 1. That was Sean Murray that did Black Ops 1. Oh, they did a load of Nine Inch Nails stuff. Okay, that's probably where I recognise the name slightly from. But there have been a load of composers that did music for like bands of various types that then did a couple of soundtracks that were really good, but you wouldn't know it was actually somebody from a band unless you looked it up. Like there's the one, what's it called? I'm trying to think of the name of it. Ravenous. So Ravenous is like a comedy, sort of dark comedy film about cannibals, like Wendigo sort of cannibals sort of in the American sort of frontier. And the soundtrack to that was done by, was it one of the guys from Blur or something? Hang on, I'm going to have to look this up now. So Ravenous soundtrack was by Damon Albarn. And then if I look up Damon Albarn, he was a member of, he was the front man of Blur. So there you go, just one of those weird things. Yeah, well done, Mike. I didn't see you come in, but hello, you came in just in the right time to answer a question like that. But yeah, it's like how Marilyn Manson did the theme to the Resident Evil film, the first one, the really catchy bit. And again, that's the kind of style of Fine Fluke and a lot of those industrial ones I like, where it sort of loops and, has more and more layers added onto the loop. Yeah, again, Kevin, it's probably one of those things where they heard about how one of the real people did it, but then didn't quite grasp why it was done like that. So yeah, what were you saying about, sorry, Rajiv? I had the Tron Ares OST on last by them, Quake. Sorry, I missed one. He said even pretty Hate Machine had exceptional production. Hate Machine, that sounds like Amelia. Hate Machine, or like a neo-Nazi band. Has exceptional production, good reference album track. Quake OST is superb by them too, I had. Oh, Nine Inch Nails did the Quake OST. Speaking of something like that, which one did the soundtrack to American McGee's Alice? Because it was somebody similar did the soundtrack to that. I'm going to look that up now. That was done by Chris Vrenna, who is... Again, now I'm going to have to look him up. American musician. Yeah, and he was in Nine Inch Nails. There you go. So, cool. Yeah, so yeah, another Nine Inch Nails one did American McGee's Alice soundtrack. So yeah, there you go. But that, again, that's not, although there's some industrial sounding stuff in that, again, that's kind of a lot more like a classical OST sort of thing. Yeah, so like I said, yeah, attached to you, not the rifle. But yeah, I'm assuming, though, it might have just been one of the things that they had a spare compass tied to their gun or something, That's just my only guess. If it wasn't just the media like, oh, cool, you can put an attachment of a compass on a gun, But yeah, it's like with the survival compasses where people used to apparently have them like sewn into their jackets or whatever. So regardless of what happens, as long as you're wearing clothes, you should have the compass on you, or sometimes even sewn into your like pants or something, like your boxers or whatever, because that way, even if you're stripped and put in captivity or whatever, as long as they don't pull your pants off, you have like a little tiny button compass sewn in there, like a little survival compass. So the idea is that if you escape or whatever, you can rip the compass out from where it's stored in the clothing, and you've got a tiny compass you can actually at least use to navigate north, east, southwest, even if it doesn't have proper bearings on or whatever, because it's so tiny. Yeah, you said about Muse a lot of time. I'm sure I've listened to Muse. You did say about that one. Right, what I can do today, though, is Citizen Erased by Muse, you were saying. Because I'm not just going out in a minute with this one, I can get it up on the YouTube tab, and then I can listen to it when the thing ends. So Muse Citizen Erased, 7 minute 22. Right, I've got that up. I've clicked pause. So I just need to make sure I don't close my browser when I end the stream, Rajiv. But otherwise, I've got that up to listen to. Yeah, they've apparently Black Swan preparedness had explosions in Iran, haven't they? And people think the reason now that when it was all kicking off the other day with Israel scrambling jets, all pizzas being ordered to the Pentagon and everything, the reason it didn't actually go off in the end was probably because they couldn't locate some of the targets, or they didn't have enough things ready to hit certain targets, and they didn't want to start the war and then not be able to do like a decapitation strike properly in the first go. So that would be my guess anyway, that and I've heard that, and that sounds credible. But obviously the US now as well has a carrier on the way, don't they? The Abraham Lincoln from the South China Sea going there to Iran. And I think the point of that is because if any of the other Arab countries get shitty and say, you can't take off combat flights from our airfields, the US can use the carrier for its strikes, and they've not got an issue then. Whereas if they're using other countries' airfields for doing strikes, those countries can just say to America, no, you're not using our runways to, launch bombing raids in case Iran attacks us in like retaliation. So that would be my guess. There was a load of stuff today coming out about Iran using chemical weapons on protesters as well, like not like tear gas stuff. They've already been doing that and, escalating past that with live ammo. But, like actually like chlorine or phosgene and stuff like that. And there was a video that got out of Iran, somebody filmed that, where you had all like the goons for, the Ayatollah's goons with all their like machine guns and everything. There were guys in full hazmat suits, like with hoses coming out of like a van. So they think like they probably had, some sort of proper chemical weapon on them. Is that the guy that was just randomly where that mall was or whatever and was training people, Kevin, and then like he led an assault and killed a load of terrorists or something because the shit went down when he was there and he was like, fuck it. I've heard talk about it, but again, I've not seen loads of stuff. Although I did see the weird thing that when they apparently repatriated the body of the Cuban like bodyguards of Maduro, they were like tiny little coffins. So either they pre-cremated them before flying them over, or that was something completely different in the coffins, or the US Special Forces had done something to them that turned them into like literal things like that. Actually believe what propaganda? But if you're on about fuck off, if you're simping for the fucking Ayatollah, you can get fucked. Goodbye, whoever was simping for the Ayatollah. Because fuck off. Oh, Iran is such a lovely country that didn't do nothing to anyone. Yeah, fuck off. Again, that doesn't mean you even have to like Israel or whatever else. You could still even not like Israel and lots of other countries in that region, but still think Iran is the worst fucking thing. But again, in the UK, like I've said before, we've had lots of people that have immigrated to the UK that have worked really hard on everything, that fled the Islamic Republic in Iran. And those people all tell you about how much of an evil regime it is. So yeah, no, I'm sure those people are fucking lying and it's lovely. Yeah, no, fuck off. And again, it's like Putin's a massive cunt, isn't he? But you still get the people who are like, oh no, Putin's based and savior of the white race, even though he's killed, like over 1 million white people in the last couple of years with his 3-day operation. Obi-Wan Nairobi, yeah, that's it. That's interesting, yeah. Stealth is like, but yeah, I've heard stuff about it. But again, obviously we haven't got any videos or whatever of it, have we yet? Yeah, so yeah, Black Swan, so yeah, based basically is the answer to that. But yeah, I've heard of a couple of things like similar to that, where there's been like, trainers somewhere that are meant to be like training, a less competent military or whatever, and something goes down and they're just like, fuck it, we're going in because we know what we're doing. So I think that's happened in quite a few countries, where there's like terrorism risks and that, and there's, random like, like soldiers from other countries or like elite soldiers from other countries that are doing training and they're just like, fuck it, right, we're going in. And all right, Anomaly Glitch, if you said other things, I've not seen them, but hello. Anomaly Glitch said hi. Hello. But what else is that? I'm gonna have a look in the news in a moment, but like I said, the BBC is useless. I'm not meant to need to have a to view the BBC, but Telegraph as well, because Telegraph's a bit better. But again, the problem is with lots of news things is each news site has their own kind of political bent. So Oh yeah, protesters were injured by the UK police the other day outside the Iranian embassy because when Iranians in London were protesting about the Islamic regime, the police beat the shit out of them for some reason recently. Probably because the Iranian government got upset that people kept taking their flags down off the embassy, so the police were ordered to use like strong force or something, which isn't a good look. I don't know why you're doing anything for the Islamic, Republic's thing with their embassy. But stormtroopers. Only Labour stormtroopers are so imprecise. Oh yeah, Trump to hit Britain with tariffs over Greenland, so all that shit's going on as well, isn't it? I've heard that on a couple of places now. Why are you sending troops to Greenland? Greenland's mine. I want to bigly own Greenland. But again, it's like I said, there's some of Trump's policies I like, other of Trump's policies I think are retarded in his second term. But like I said, it's not me doing it because I've got Trump derangement syndrome. Just sometimes I think his policies aren't well thought out. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, that worked in reality. Let's build clones of it. Exactly. Why not? I'm actually kind of interested, speaking about compasses, I know there's no sound going for it. I just want to try something with sound. I'll cut it off very quickly, but because it's magnetic drivers in my yeah, that's kind of cool. So with my headphones, because they're magnetic drivers, if I put the compass near them, as certain sounds go, you can see the compass move and that, because obviously the magnetic field shifts and that as the drivers are done. But again, you wouldn't have your compass up to some headphones anyway. But I just find yeah, the last couple of years since COVID, everything seems to have kind of gone crazy year after year, doesn't it? With wars and, like crises and invasions and everything else. So, yeah, so to go back to, like, just for the people who hadn't caught it earlier in the stream. So although I've got, like, shorts planned for every day, and there is one video I've not got a short, and I've got, like, a longer video coming out just because it was one I filmed. Because what I want to do most weeks, although it's gone a bit strange now because of all the, pathway stuff that became really popular. What my plan is mostly is to, once I've got that Pathways kind of sequel parody thing done, I want to get a review done, a proper full-length review of the Bocian thing, but I also need to do a proper review of this thing, because like I said, I bought this thing, people were interested in it, and I've not even done a short on it yet. I've showed it in streams, but the semiconductor based, they say it's a Geiger counter, it's not a Geiger counter, but the semiconductor radiation detector, because again, for the money it's pretty good for what it is, but like I said, I'll do a proper video where I explain that properly and put it next to other detectors so we can compare and contrast readings. I think anomaly glitch is probably because a lot of the politicians went a bit mad with power with COVID, where they could lock everyone down and that. No, like sort of the GPS type things, Ben. No, my smartphone's just a normal phone. Other than that, I've had dumb Nokias in the past. I keep thinking about getting a walking GPS, like handheld GPS at some point. But the problem is apparently a lot of the Garmin ones have shit maps in the UK. There's another brand of handheld GPS that's meant to be fairly good. But again, it's not something at the moment I really have much need to buy. But it's like one of those things that if I was out and about, but at one point I almost managed to get my hands on a Russian, the current Russian army GPS unit, because the load got smuggled out of the, Russian army where Mobics don't get their own equipment because their quartermasters sell it off. And I was almost sent it, but the problem was, like, again, I didn't have to pay for it because I didn't get it in the end. But it was a case that because it had proper, like, shielded casing and that, every time it went through an X-ray machine in an airport or a post office, it would cause, like an alarm to go off because they couldn't actually scan it. So it wasn't sent to me in the end because it would have caused too many issues for the sender, where they were worried it might get confiscated somewhere along the way. So they ended up, I think, just keeping it for themselves. And the funny thing with that is I was shown a picture of it. The last place on its history it was turned on before the person got it, before they sent it to me, was the Donbass. Because, yeah, they probably all turned up in the Donbass, hand these out to your Mobics. No, meat soldier, you do not get one of these. I am selling them. Yeah, map and compass. Yes, David, because... so if we're going to go on about this, where you read really stupid stuff online, I read a thing where a guy was asking quite legitimately, like he says, I use a map and compass, but I also want to get a good handheld GPS, just to use as an alternative and then have the map and compass as a backup, just for simplicity's sake. And it was one of those stupid fucking forum threads where every single response was, handheld GPS is a shit. But then you had some people saying, oh, why do you even need a map and compass? Just use your phone. And so, again, and it's no surprise why some people go to national parks and fucking die and get lost, is it? Because, yeah, like, there were literally people there saying, oh, you don't even need a map and compass or anything on you. Just literally take your smartphone. That will show you where to go. And it's like, the amount of layers of stupidity of that. No map and compass as backup. Like, I don't understand if somebody had a map and compass and they went to... somewhere like that, and they actually had, the map and compass as a backup, and they knew how to use it. But I'll take my smartphone just in case it gets a signal and I can use its GPS. But it was the person that didn't understand that most GPS things don't use a mobile phone signal. So yeah, again, his phone isn't going to work in the middle of a national park most likely. And also that he didn't understand that phones, don't work well in wet weather and cold weather and stuff like that, where a big tablet-style GPS, it works differently. Yeah. Why do you need storm matches? Just use a lighter. Oh, why do you need an all-weather, good quality coat? Just, use whatever. Yeah. Oh, why do you need proper boots on? Just take sneakers, like trainers. Or like work, whatever you call, like the Oxford-style shoes, the little leather shoes. Why do you need all that? Yeah. Why do you even need a tent? That kind of thing. But yeah, like I said, Garmin's are apparently good, Kevin. It's just a problem in the UK, from what I was able to tell from a lot of reviews, is that most Garmin's don't have UK maps or proper, trail maps and that for UK things. So you have to then buy them as additional things. Yeah, well, to some degree, again, it depends how much. Yeah, I know you're probably joking about that, but yeah, it depends, doesn't it? Because there's different degrees of it, and again, knowing more navigation methods is better than others. But like I said, the reason I bought whatever recently, wherever I've got it, this is just because it's a really well built compass, and again, this is a proper Kamenga one with the tritium in it. So I am gonna shill for the people like Kevin. We're saying Big Daddy sponsor Kamenga, even though they've not sponsored me. But yeah, like I said, this one's got the proper tritium in it, so I don't know if you can see that where, yeah, you can't really see very well. You can see the glow even in a room with the lights on. So, you've got like your 10 to 12 years of glow on its own. And again, this one, because it's actually got the proper bezel that just doesn't run off on its own, because some of the cheaper compasses have the shitty bezels that, you touch slightly and they spin halfway round. You've also got the good quality, like whatever they call this, where it's an optical compass, whatever you want to call the magnifying glass on these. They have a proper name. Yeah, I want to get off Mr. Starmer's wild ride though. But I'm trying to think, lensatic compass, that's the word for him. But yeah, but again, I like the whole sighting system with these, where you can see something in the distance, look at it, get your bearing on it, set it. About 100 when with the postage from America, although it did come in literally about 3 days after ordering it via priority airmail, about £110. But bear in mind that it's only about £20/$dollars more to buy the tritium version, the one with the regular glow in the dark paint. So that isn't that much, because you've got 7 bits of tritium in here. You've got a little vial there and a little vial there on both sides of like the little viewing window thing. And then on the main compass, you've got a bit on the rotating bezel. North, east, and west have tritium in them. And you also have a tritium thing at the 12 o'clock position underneath. Okay, I'll look into that. But like I said, I'd rather, if I'm doing it, get a GPS than a cheap phone. I mean, you can't even get $20 to $30 phones here, even for dumb phones. But yeah, like I said, at the moment, I'm not planning on going anywhere where I actually need a handheld GPS. But like I was saying, it's one of those things where I wouldn't mind getting one at some point. plot and azimuth, yeah, exactly all that stuff. Again, there's some quite good, if you're into maps, some quite good old military training films about knowing the difference between magnetic, north, and all that. But like I said, I'm not going out anywhere immediately where I need to know really good map bearings and converting my degrees to make sure I'm, doing the thing from magnetic north to get the grid north. But yeah, anyway. But like I said, the thing I like with the sort of lensatic style compasses is you can see a landmark, set your bearing to it, whatever, then find your next landmark and do it that way, which I think is a easy way to kind of navigate without, getting too in depth. Because like I said, you get other compasses that are really good for like the base plate and everything else. But again, it depends what you're using it for, doesn't it? Because there's lots of things like that where as long as it's built to a good standard where it's not going to fail you, looks like I'm getting your old Ordnance Survey maps out. Yeah. Apparently, Ordnance Survey maps are really good because of how detailed they are for actually, getting bearings on things via the map because of how well plotted out the maps are. Where everything is exactly where it should be, not roughly in the right area like a lot of maps do. But yeah, anyway, what was I going to say regarding that before I forgot? But yeah, as long as you buy something that's not cheap and shit that's going to fail you for that reason, let's say you have a backup compass as well, it's mostly, isn't it, just not doing anything that's above your skill level. Because again, there are some people that I wouldn't be able, I wouldn't trust to orienteer in a very, very basic thing, where they wouldn't know how to mark a landmark on a map when they see it, and all that. Because, again, this is going back a while ago, but when I was at secondary school, I think there was some sort of orienteering thing we did for an elective thing one day. And some of the people there literally couldn't get a bearing on a compass just to, follow trail paths. It wasn't doing anything complicated. It was, like there were like 3 trails we were doing in a relatively small area because it was where for like being out for 3 hours, you could do a round trip kind of thing or, go somewhere, go a bit and then back. And, so it was just one of those things where you're meant to check the compass every then so you knew which trail you were going on. And there were people there that just literally were like, yeah, this has a GPS in, but this isn't a proper map GPS. My older watch did have a better GPS in it, but then the battery life shit on that. But yeah, Garmin watches are probably, to be honest, the Garmin watch might actually be better in the UK than a full-on Garmin GPS. Yeah, saying that, we did a couple of classes on map reading in school, not even an elective saying that. I can't remember if it was geography, which one we did it in, or like one of the sciences, or even maybe maths. But I know we did it, where like they showed you about having the map orientated north, how grid squares, work along the corridor and up the stairs, for the thing when you're plotting the axis and everything else, how scales work on the map and stuff like that. So again, we did do a little bit of it, even though I imagine modern British education does not teach anything like that. Because again, that's making me sound like a grumpy old man, but I'm 32. So we're talking about, like I was in high school, secondary school, between, I think it was 2005 and 2011. I think they were the years. And like I said, even with that, I imagine since then, because of how technology's changed, that kids don't learn to read maps anymore. Yeah, again, I can't remember which geography teacher it was with, because the later stuff in geography was all like the kind of GCSE stuff, all about writing about people in rainforests having their terrain destroyed and stuff like that. Because, yeah, weirdly, a lot of the GCSE geography had nothing to do with map reading, other than maybe knowing where a certain country was on a map kind of thing. It was more about, like, issues with water tables and stuff like that. It was almost like more socio-economic geography than it was, like the kind of actual map reading and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, like I said, these dive compasses are pretty cool, even though I'm not taking one diving. I just like the fact that you can actually look through that window to get a bearing when you've got it on your wrist. But like I said, you just have to be aware with these that you do the opposite, so although the north, south, east, west, and that is correct, but say the north thing on here points to 180 degrees, and it obviously should point to 0 or 360, but it's because it's designed to work through that window. But, you might get somebody who buys one of these, not know that, and then do the opposite direction of everything they're meant to be doing because they're reading the degrees as they are. But yeah, like I said, you can use this as like a very basic sighting compass, you know, because you could look up and down on that and look where the line is if you held it like that. So like I said, this is basically the Soviet military compass, but built to a better standard. Yeah, also, whatever the one is to do with elevation, I'm trying to think of the proper word for it, you know, where you have the lines to show you on a map elevation, you know, as you get hills, or you get the smaller and smaller little concentric lines for hills, whatever it is. I'm trying to think of the bloody name for it, and I can't think of them now. To mark elevation, but they have a proper name, don't they? What was actually really cool is I replayed Arma 2 yesterday, and I know this is a thing in Arma Reforger as well. The compasses in the game work properly, or at least work better than most game compasses. Topography, yep, thank you. That's it. Steve Irwin. Ah, miss Steve Irwin. Shame about the Stingray. Crocodile Hunter. Yeah, like I said, we definitely had, I think there was a proper outdoor hiking elective where people did that every week. They could choose it as their elective. But I know with one of the electives we did, we now and again went out and did map stuff, but it wasn't like the primary thing, you know. So it was like one of those ones where every now and again you'd go out somewhere with a minivan and compasses, and they were like the best weeks when you did that because you actually got out and did stuff. But other times it was something else in the elective. Yeah, like I said, Arma. There we go, Willow. So yeah, going back to Arma. So like I said, yeah, Arma Reforger has the Soviet compasses, although annoyingly in Arma Reforger, the Soviet compass isn't correct, because how it works in Arma Reforger is that outer rim bit actually rotates like that with the direction, wherein obviously, like I say, in these shitty Soviet compasses, only the needle actually moves on these. Because like I said, these are designed that you wear them on like your wrists like that. Like I said, it's just a dive watch one is this built to a better standard. And then, you know, you can tell which way is north, even though with these, again, like I said, these are so crap that the tiniest metal object you get near them screws the reading up. And even when you put on a flat surface away from stuff, because they're not liquid filled, the needle constantly does that anyway, even when it's roughly pointing north. Yeah, but speaking like saying Arma 2, because the cool thing is, I think it's K on the keyboard. It's not one of the controls you use very often. Tell you what, while we're having a chat, I know I've been on over an hour, but I'm going to quickly launch Arma 2 now and show you what I mean. Because I was doing it just to test that my Lensatic compass was like it the other day. I should probably launch it via Operation Arrowhead, shouldn't I, actually, rather than Arma 2? But I launched it via regular Arma 2 the other day, and it worked. It will be Arma 2 Operation Arrowhead, won't it? Arma 2 Operation Arrowhead. Or do I launch it via British Armed Forces? I can't remember which one I launch it via now. Operation Arrowhead has 153.6 hours in it. So it's probably that one I played most recently. So let's launch it via Operation Arrowhead. It's just because one launches it with all the expansions, the others don't. Yeah, I know Operation Arrowhead is obviously the one that's... Why has it gone to community? I click play. But yeah, oh, it is running apparently when it launches. But yeah, like obviously... yeah, it's just because it's a bit difficult when you've got all the Arma 2 DLCs getting it sometimes to launch the right one that loads everything up. Because I know if you launch it just by a standard Arma 2, it only launches standard Arma 2. But yeah, I think they updated it. Didn't they, at some point? So when you launch Operation Arrowhead, any of the installed like extra DLCs will launch with it. Whereas at one point you had to make sure you launch via exactly the right executable. It would just launch Operation Arrowhead as its standalone thing. Interesting. Yeah, I know you have to account for latitude of compasses, but I didn't know the reason. Yeah, again, like I said, the thing is, Arma 2 is still probably my favourite Arma. Like, if Reforger had a lot more content, Reforger might be. But the thing is with Arma 3 is I didn't like the main storyline to Arma 3. I know Prairie Fire and everything change it, where I'd actually like that a lot more. All right, let's just launch the editor and launch UTES so I can just demonstrate the compass. But yeah, it's the sort of thing where... So let's put my guy at the end of the runway so stuff isn't too far away from me. Right, preview. And again, this is going to look shit, I'm afraid, so I'm just going to rotate my camera because we can't even do the flip camera. I'm going to have to hold my thing like that. But yeah, so if I press K, I can get out my compass. So don't know if I thought double tap K was toggle it. There we go. So, right, so here, even though it's, you know, the angle looks a bit wrong, we have look. the proper US lensatic compass. I don't know how well that you can see it there. I like the one I've got. And then what you do is obviously you look at something, and then I'm just trying to think. Let's say the aircraft control tower there. Let's put that right in the middle of the crosshair, and then yeah, we can see that's what, like 275 degrees, or 45, 46 mils. Yeah, closer to 46 mils, if that's visible there. But yeah, obviously you can't see the lens there to zoom in even further, but you've got the actual bearing and everything like you would with it. So I was actually, because I'd never really bothered with compass like that, because you can just open the map. I know in Reforger obviously they've done the thing where but when you're playing by default, you don't actually have a GPS style map icon. You have to rely on actually using the compass properly to navigate. You can ask me a question about BB guns. Whether or not I can answer you, I don't know. Do you mean modern Russian compasses? I'll see in Armour 2 if I spawn as a Russian soldier, if I get a modern Russian compass, or if it just still gives me the same one. But I know, like saying the Soviet compasses were shit. I know, like, again, the Soviets did do different compasses. Oh no, it still gives me the same compass, the US lensatic one, when I'm playing as that. Or you on about real life, not Armour? But yeah, like I said, the wherever I put the fucking thing on my table, I literally had it right out, and I've moved it, and I don't know where I've put it. Oh, it's because I put it right there. But yeah, so like I was saying, it's so yeah, in Armour you've got this exact one with the the lensatic compass. And again, the compass is never good if I put it near my phone, because the magnetic back thing on my phone fucks up the bearing. Although if east is pointing that sort of that way and north is that way roughly, that will be correct. But yeah, that's spinning around to the right way. No, but there is magnetic fields there that are fucking with a compass. But yeah, like I said, the entire thing works like it does in Armour. Like I said, this isn't a nice clicky bezel, which I like. Although it's 3 degree increments on this, which is good or bad depending on how you consider it. Whereas some people like ones where they do 1 degree increments. Yeah, sorry, going back to real life. Sorry, yeah. Let me have a look what the modern Russian compasses look like then. Sometimes it's actually quite hard to find modern Russian army compass. I mean, I could probably get one of those quite easily through the post from a dead Mobic. Or, just one where the Mobic never got one. Again, annoyingly, because of fucking Google AI results, it says modern Russian compasses are based off the Ardanov compasses, which are these, which I fucking doubt that. And then the video comes up that's meant to show it you, shows a Kamenga like I was just showing, which is American. Is it called like Ratnik compass or something like that, maybe? Let me search Ratnik compass. Oh, I've just found one that's come up. That's, again, one of the compasses that's come up is very similar to the US one, just like rounder. But yeah, if I search Ratnik compass, maybe that will be the name of their modern one. And no, it's only coming up with both old watches for some reason, which aren't compasses, old Soviet ones, and it's also coming up with and I don't think that's a Soviet one. That actually does look like a Soviet one, but it looks like a old Soviet artillery one. And it's also coming up with Francis Baker M73s, which are basically just a slightly higher quality version of this. So yeah, annoyingly, Google is totally failing me trying to look up modern Russian compasses. I don't have that gun, so I can't tell you. Is that a BB gun or like an airsoft type one? But I'll Google it, but I won't be able to tell you much about it. And bear in mind, with YouTube, I also can't say much about it. All right, so it's a CO2. All right, so it's a CO2 BB gun. So is that 6mm airsoft, or is it like a 177? Yeah, it's 5.95mm. So that's 6mm airsoft BBs, isn't it? I have no idea, I'm afraid. If it's made of zinc and everything and it's gas blowback, it should hopefully be quite fun and feel good to shoot. But again, I've never used it. I don't know. No, but I will search Chudways now and have a look at it after I've also listened to Citizen Erased. But yeah, and annoyingly, I can't show airsoft guns on the stream because I do have a nice blowback CZ75 or CZ75, however you want to say it, that I bought. You know, it's a fully black, nice one as well because I bought it off of a mate who used to play airsoft, had all the Yukara type stuff, but then got bored of it and wanted some money. So I bought that off of him. But on YouTube live streams, I can show it in a regular video. YouTube live streams can't fucking show it. But you do strip it like you strip the real one. It's just obviously when you get far enough inside, it's just obviously a gas blowback system for it. It's one of the ones you put green gas in, a bit like if you're filling a lighter with a lighter fluid, as opposed to using a CO2 cylinder directly in it. But that was a really nice one. I can't remember what manufacturer did that. But again, the CZ75 feels really nice in my hand. Although it's a bit too large for my hand, whichever variant of CZ75 it is. I'd like it if it was a little bit smaller. But it does have that nice kind of like rounded 1911 Browning high power feel to it. So Chudways by Brune Robs pick or whatever it is. Yeah, well, this is only 48 megabytes. Pathways is 300 megabytes. Save this to my computer so London police will not find it. I guess based. Shall I click run game here and see? Amelia said, Charlie, will you help me secure the future for the white race? Okay, start. Let's see how this works. This short, again, I'm not going to show it in case there's stuff I can't show on YouTube. This short shitpost VN is a work of fiction. Oh, it's got audio. Charlie asked Holly's sister why she was crying. When she went to the toilet at school, she saw a strange man in a dress washing his hands. Okay, I'm not going to be able to play this on stream, I don't think, but I am going to bookmark this and have a look at it later because, especially if they've cloned the voice, just because it's funny, and I'm going to link it to maybe some of my friends who will either find it horrifying or they will find it hilarious. I don't know if Stammengruppe Führer Kia has banned Chudways yet, but he might send the Stormtroopers after you if he did ban it. But the actual Pathways game, like we said, they took it down for a couple of days, but now they've put it back up again. But again, a lot of the content's cut out of it to make it look like it was never that much into scaring the kids. Yeah, like I said, Kevin, again, I don't have... Rajiv also says, Muse's song Resistance also mentioned the Fort Police. I'm just going to say, cool. Again, Rajiv, sorry, I can't chat in two chats at once. That's going to distract me. But yeah, thanks for that, Rajiv. I will look into those again. Also, if you send me Citizen Erased, I know I've got it open now, but just send me that in there so I remember what it is if I close it and I like the sound of it. Because that's the problem, like I said, is a lot of the time when I'm doing a fucking live stream is the problem that people mention stuff that sounds really cool. Then I open a load of tabs with stuff on it. I accidentally close the browser and lose all the tabs, or I run out of time and don't get a chance to check them. In what sense you were trying to get stuff? What actual surplus stuff, Samuel? With German World War II stuff, you need to be really careful because there's so many bloody copies of it out there at inflated prices. So yeah, German stuff, you need to really know it's a legit seller if you're buying from them. Because there's a massive market in like fake German World War II surplus. But yeah, eBay and Etsy are generally good for surplus. I know Etsy, like people say, is normally more expensive, but you can sometimes find stuff on there you can't find on eBay. But yeah, my general advice is if you find something you're interested in, see if you can search around and find it in various places to get a rough idea of what it should cost. Because again, surplus prices always fluctuate, but sometimes some sellers sell stuff at stupidly high prices, or sometimes the other way around. You find something that's weirdly cheap, and assuming it's a legit seller, you just get lucky because they're either selling it cheap to try and shift it, or they're selling it cheap because they don't know what it's really worth. That sounds kind of cool, Willow. It's making me think. So it's like a choose your own adventure where you die horribly. Yeah, if You didn't look both ways before you crossed the road. Unfortunately, the what was he called when David Prowse, Darth Vader, played the Green Light Code? Was it something like that? The Crossing Code man. Oh, what was his name? Again, this is before my time, but I know it exists. You didn't listen to David Prowse. You were hit by a semi-articulated lorry. Green Cross Code, yeah. They had to bury you in a soup can. You know. Speaking of stuff like that, though, I got a book the other day. I haven't showed it on YouTube yet, but I will do a YouTube video on this because it has got a lot of nuclear war stuff in, and it's called Scarred for Life, and it's volume 3 Scarred for Life. But it's one of the more interesting because it's a lot of the Cold War stuff in this one, and it's all about like British and American TV stuff and like educational stuff that horrified kids. You know, where it wasn't stuff aimed at adults that kids shouldn't be watching for the most part. This is stuff, you know, like documentaries and stuff that were shown to kids. Like, so it's got a big bit about Freds in there and stuff like that. About, you know, all the stuff kids saw that, you know, where people thought, oh, this is all right for kids when it really wasn't. Or, you know. Oh, is that the one with John Hurt or somebody who sounds like John Hurt as a Grim Reaper that lures kids into the waters to drown, where they could get caught on bicycles under the water and things like that? A bit like if it was a thing talking about Delta P, a kind of thing like that. You know, this might look like a little bit of water, but really, you know, there could be rusty shopping trolleys underneath to catch your legs, or weeds. And then there's like kids drowning in little puddles, essentially. I'm pretty sure I know that, because I'm pretty sure a lot of those like old public service announcement or whatever they call like those, don't get yourself. Oh, is it Donald Pleasance? I thought it sounded like John Hurt in that one, or maybe I'm thinking of another one. But yeah, I know exactly what you're on about. Yes, and yeah, there's loads of good ones like that. But yeah, back in the day, how you stopped kids from doing it was you scared the shit out of them. You didn't say, "Here's your waifu Amelia." They'd have probably, again, I don't want to give the government ideas on how to effectively indoctrinate kids, but Pathways wasn't the way to do it. Even though you could tell they were trying to scare kids into like thinking you're going to get bummed in prison if you pick the wrong options, because, you know, our big tolerant government doesn't like you using your brain to research things for yourself. Game was Crucial Crew. Let me Google it. And again, like I said, this is the problem with these streams. Crucial Crew game. An urban adventure game for year 6. Crucial Crew org UK. Okay, let's play. All right. Oh, there's a thing up here. I'm going to bookmark it. Choose your character to start your adventure. I'm going to be the guy with a skateboard. I'll read some of it out. I won't be streaming for too much longer. I've got 41 likes on this stream, so a lot of people have clicked like. I'll read it in a Yorkshire. This isn't fucking Yorkshire, is it? Hang on. It's a fine Saturday morning at the start of the holiday, and you got the whole day ahead of you and no plans. Well, except maybe to eat some of the food Daddy's going to barbecue later on. Knock, knock. There's somebody at the door. Oh, option C, answer the door. It might be a nonce that's going to kill us. Oh. You open the door, it's your friend Alicia. She gives you a big grin. Hello, dude, how are you? I had an epic game across the street last night. You'd have seen it. I should start my own YouTube channel. This can't be that old if they're saying YouTube channel, or is this a modern version of it? Cool, I was reading me comics. I'll do it in a Jerry Jackson voice, actually. I was reading the new Fiona and Cake Adventures comic. Adventure Time. Man, I got into those as well. I love the TV show. Alicia pauses, looks at you and says, so I've been talking to this really cool boy, met him on Xbox Live, and we've added each other on Snapchat. How old is he? So how old is he? He's 12 and he lives about 10 miles away. I do not believe, no. I reckon it's a nonce. I reckon it is a member of the Parliament, or it is a member of the BBC that wants to nonce a kid. Listen, I've been hanging out with this dude. He's legit. No, no, I don't think so. I think he's a nonce. No, he goes to a different school, but it doesn't matter. He's called Cafe. All right, we're gonna put our big thinking brains on right now, boys and girls. A name like that is setting off my racist chud instincts, and I think he might be a member of a grooming gang. So I think we need to phone up Amelia and sort out what we're gonna do about this. I'll do, are you sure? Because she wants to meet up. But there's no option to tell an adult. Again, it's a bit of a different response he does. Well, you don't know if he really is who he says he is. I wouldn't meet him. Oh, I suppose you're right, but part of me wants to believe. You've given good advice. You should never share personal information, personal images, or passwords. Always think about what you post online and what you may be able to see it. Your score has gone up by 2 points. You now have 2. I suppose I'd have got 1 point if I said, I'll come with you to check it's safe. And you wouldn't have got any points if you said, all right, have a good time with that nonce. Well, I got some errands to run, so I'm off now. I'll remember what you said. I'll be at the park later, so maybe see you there. Stay safe, I will say, because she needs to stay safe or she will get nonced. And then she will get stuff I should not say on a stream. Oh, alone again, but wait. What's that funny smell? It smells horrible, a bit like bad eggs. Maybe Dad has hidden a body under the floorboards. You know it's not your little brother this time because he's gone out with Mum. Wow, it smells worse than your socks after PE. So check the cooker, check the kettle, check the radio. I'm going to check the cooker first in case he's going to start a house fire. It smells strong here. You quickly check the cooker's controls. They're all turned off. It must be a gas leak. Switch the light on, call emergency services, open the window or run outside. I think open the window. You open the window and fresh air from outside starts blowing in. Yes, it's safe to do so. Opening a door window is a good move. Your score has gone up by 1 point and you're free. Well, now what are you going to do? Run outside next. Your score point has gone up by 2 points. You're now 5. But where's Dad? He's supposed to be out here somewhere. Shout, Dad. Dad has a great big beard. His beard is too big for his face. I do not know what is up with Dad's beard. He looks like he is a fake beard. Like he is pretending that he is somebody else. Also, there is a wire exposed on that swing thing. It is going to cause electric shock and or kill someone. What's his name says he is French. What, like John from Jerry Jackson? Dad runs up from to what? Dad runs up from to bottom of the garden. Well, that's not proper English. It's literally Jerry Jackson. Dad runs up from to bottom of the garden. Hello, what's up? That is fucking what it says. Look, I'm not lying. Look, Dad runs up from to bottom of the garden. It's a good thing they are only teaching kids in this about the safeties and not the grammars, because that is great shit. I think this is like Pathways, although this is already better animated than Pathways, so that is not right fair. Took garden. But took garden. It's not saying took garden, Rajiv. It says to bottom. Dad runs up from to bottom of the garden. Hello, what's up? Tell Dad about the smell of gas. Dad, I can smell gas in the kitchen. I've opened a window. Good job. This is an emergency, but who do I call? He looks at his phone, unsure what to do. There's a load of numbers, but I reckon you should call 999. Because I don't know what the mum would do if they smelt gas. And the other one is an 0800 number that ends in 999. I reckon you should call the fire brigade right now in case the house blows up and kills everyone in the gas explosion. Call 999. Dad, just call 999. Are you sure? Okay, it will. Okay, suddenly remember something else. How about turn off the electricity supply? Because I don't know if we can turn off the gas supply, but we should turn that off in case that light that's hanging sparks. Oh. He says, I'm not sure about it. Might spark and cause an explosion, but you gave me an idea. I'll turn off the gas supply at the meter. How do you know the gas supply is off? Valve handle is in line with pipe. No, it should be that the valve handle is at 90 degrees of the pipe, I think. But that is actually good because I would not know. It's off when the handle is sticking out at 90 degrees from the pipe. Good stuff. You now have a score of 6. I'm not going to fucking play this whole thing, but yeah, this is fucking better than Pathways at least, and they've randomized the things. It's not always one thing in one position. So anyway, I will not stop. I will stop doing the Jerry Jackson voice, like I said, there's some stuff I don't mind about Trump, but a lot of the tariff stuff is fucking stupid, and I think it is going to hurt the US economy. Again, with the stuff over Greenland, I don't really know enough about it in terms of what he's tariffing. if it's to try and just get the UK to say, okay, we won't send troops to Greenland. And again, with the Greenland stuff, how much of it this is serious or just Trump, you know, kind of shit posting, sort of, if that makes sense. But like I said, with Trump's tariffs and stuff in the first place, is some tariffs I do think you need in a country, but there's other times tariffs will just fucking hurt your economy if you tariff stuff that you can't make anyway in your, you know, country and stuff like that. But again, like I said, I am not the politics expert, and lots of people have the Trump derangement syndromes, and you know, like I said, sometimes, you know, a broken clock can be right twice a day. So just because Trump does something does not inherently make it bad or good. It depends actually on what he does. But I think he should release the Epstein files because we are all interested in that. Yeah, we were doing the fake Jerry Jackson thing, a Romin J Fuel, if you didn't know. Jerry Jackson is a David Firth animation. And in Jerry Jackson, they all talk like this and in very bad grammar. And but yeah, John in Jerry Jackson is French. So they sometimes say, like, there's one episode he goes to John, I think you are a Jew and we should not hang out with the Jews. And he goes, I am not a Jew, I am French. So yeah, there's lines like that in Jerry Jackson. Yeah, again, if he's on the Epstein files, that might be why he keeps delaying and making distractions. So again, if everything's quiet with the Epstein files for a bit, and then all of a sudden his name gets brought up or they talk about releasing him again, and then he bombs another country or invades somewhere. I wasn't sure I did love Donald Trump. You obviously didn't listen to anything I just said, did you? But okay. Yeah. I have to start a bigly war because they might be talking about me on the Epstein files. Who's this Epstein guy? No point talking about that. I think the Clintons are on there also. Gas Mask Allen says, huge fail. If you're on about the guns, the blank firers, I got rid of them. But like I said, how I got rid of those, Equalizer, is there was somebody I know that was interested in them. They didn't give me any money from or whatever. And I basically explained all the rules to them and said, you know, in February, you have to hand them in, showed them all the stuff. And I said, look, once you take them away from me, not my responsibility to this person, you know, it's your duty to hand them in if you're going to do that. If you don't, then it's not my problem. That's what we agreed on. So, you know, like I said, they've not been compacted as of yet or whatever. But it's not my problem. And like I said, because the police aren't doing a fucking buyback, they're not getting them from me directly. Because like I said, the problem was as well, when they did the previous thing, even when I did the right thing and handed them in, that was still a load of fucking effort because the police didn't really know what they were doing with them. As in, you know, like the government said, oh, you have to get rid of these and hand them into the police station. Then some of the police stations near me wouldn't accept them anyway. So I had to go and spend petrol money to go, you know, out the way, you know, wrap them up in a specific way, take them to a specific station. You still couldn't hand them in anonymously, even though, you know, like I said, everybody knows I've got them or whatever. So I still had to fill out all the forms with my names and details on and, you know, all that. It was, so like literally it was one of those things where what they should have done is just say, you know, just destroy them yourself or whatever. That's right, Equalizer. Unless that's an answer of, I'm sending you to prison now for that. But well, the problem is I can't just keep them because, like I said, because I do YouTube and that, they know I fucking got them. And I'm sure now I've been shit-talking Kia, they want any reason they can to arrest me. Well, probably not really, but you know what I mean. So it's one of those things that in no fucking way am I going to do a video on something I now can't legally have and then be like, oh yeah, I'm keeping that. How will they ever know? No, I had them in a box, but one of the cops was still like, oh, I don't think you should have them to even hand in, like thing, you know, like, oh, I'm going to have to call my supervisor up, you know, like all that sort of shit. Even I printed out a thing about the amnesty for them, and then they were kind of getting like, almost like I brought a bomb into the police station kind of thing. Like, you know, there was one cop eventually came over who was just fucking sensible about it. But it was in that kind of thing where, because a lot of them didn't really know what they were doing, they were kind of almost then having a go at me for bringing them in. And like I was saying, this is the whole fucking thing. Like, I'm not complying with these kind of fucking amnesties if that's their attitude. Blank firers. Because basically, in the UK, it used to be that you could own loads of different type of blank firers. I've done videos on them before I handed mine in. So basically, like, you know, a pistol that has a filled-in barrel but has a little air vent in it. So you can fire blank rounds from it, but you couldn't shoot real rounds from it. And Yeah, exactly. They did it in the lobby as well with me, JJ. Yeah, exactly. And then, like I said, a load of like the civilian staff and whatever had no fucking clue what was going on. Almost like I pulled out a, like a suicide vest. So yeah, a load of people coming on now. So hello, I might stay on a bit longer. Don't forget to like the stream, everybody, before I go off. But yeah, so. But like saying, Kevin, this is the thing. If they pay me a visit, I've not got anything illegal like them now. Again, yes, you can own replicas and all this, but this is what I'm saying. It's where they keep kind of making the rules shitter and shitter, where here's something that was legally completely fine to own. Oh, wait, we've decided now it was never fine to own. I've shot them before, but I don't own any. Because, again, it's one of those things that you can go to ranges and that in the UK. Oh, sorry, how many people have shotguns? I thought you meant have shotguns as in have shot a gun once in their life. That have shotguns, what, like 250,000 people have a Section 2, do you mean, and own a shotgun? Yeah, exactly, JJ. This is like kind of what my problem is. Like I'm saying that if I wanted to legally hand those guns in, like, and do all the bits they've said about, I don't have any samurai swords. Again, samurai swords are fucking weird because it's one of those ones where they made a thing about ninja swords, but then it was all about different things with ninja swords. So how long is my katana handy? And I'll show you. Because the rules are now with katanas in the UK that you can own them, but they have to be a proper hand-forged high-quality one, not like a shit-tier stainless steel stamped thing. So something like this, I can own. I can't go and wave it in the street, but you can own it. But if you had one that was like a shit piece of stamped steel, they're illegal. Because they did a weird thing at one point where they said, well, all the cheapo ones are illegal. If you can still buy and sell high quality ones. Yeah. They literally have a load of things that all ban stuff like shurikens and ninja stuff. That when I think it was all the video nasty stuff with that stupid bitch Mary Whitehouse in the 80s, that basically because a load of ninja films are popular, they were worried people were going to run around with like nunchucks and throwing stars like shurikens and like katanas of various types. You can still own tantos, yeah. And they were worried that people were going to be committing like ninja crimes against each other. So yeah, at one point they went and banned literally loads and loads and loads of the things you'd see in like those kind of Hollywood ninja films. Yeah, it's just it has to be handmade, exactly, JJ. It has to be a properly forged one. This isn't a windlass one, but yeah. And like I've said before, a katana is not that good a sword anyway. I don't hate them, but if I was going to use a sword for something, I wouldn't want to use a katana for it. Let's put it that way. I'd much rather have a cutlass with a proper handguard. Owning what in your loft, Mr. In Between News? If you mean a stainless steel stamped samurai sword and like any of the zombie knife type things, I think stuff like that is completely illegal. Now, can own this in the UK, can show swords on YouTube. No laws against those. Keir Starmer's a lawyer, he should know all this. Oh, actually, I think you are going to use it to go and commit a terror offence, so I'm preemptively sending you to the gulag. There's sadly no HEMA things, as far as I know, near me, because, again, there's loads of things like that, MCAS, and I'll try and get back to the comments, but they're going quite quick now. There's loads of stuff like that, like the traditional rifle shooting club that used to exist fairly close to me and then died during COVID. There's a lot of stuff like that if I lived somewhere where they actually did all that shit, I'd be quite into it. But the problem is that so much stuff like that just isn't near me. And I don't have a car at the moment. I used to. But again, if I did have a car at the moment, it's like one of those things I'd have to spend quite a lot of petrol money and time to drive out to somewhere where they do it. So, and I also used to have the problems that even when there were groups that sort of interested me, I normally always had to work weekends. And then a lot of the time it was either a Saturday or a Sunday. A lot of these groups did their thing. So that, basically made those groups impossible to do stuff with. But yeah, going back to the thing. So yeah, when people are on about the blank firers, basically you have to really look into the actual blank firer you've got if they've made it illegal or not. Because again, like with the Brunies, the weird thing is the little 22LR Bruni pistol I've got, that is still legal. They didn't add that to the list of the Brunies they were, banning. But the single action army revolver, they banned that despite the fact that is built the exact same way as a 22LR revolver. Yeah, all right, Stu. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, it's doing really well, isn't it? I am going to do a sequel to that, even though it's not my normal type of videos, just because that was so popular. It's because the stormtroopers are too busy. They've got such a backlog of people that they've arrested for tweets that I'm quite low on their priority list. Again, I don't know. Look up the fucking laws. Again, like I said, if you've got one that breaks the rules, it's probably like 5-10 years in prison. But again, that sort of stuff. Black powders you can own. Again, you can't just go and shoot a black powder anywhere. But if you've got black powder, old, like I have, muskets and that fall under Section 58 or whatever it is, obsolete and antique caliber guns, you can own them. It's just you can't go and load them and shoot them. But again, all of these things are a bit weird because a lot of people can legally own a certain amount of black powder. They can legally own the musket. They could legally own all the lead balls. You're just not allowed to put them together and shoot them. I've had them here before, yes. And they got fucking bored and went. Basically, to explain it, they came here originally because basically an upset little small-dicked guy on YouTube reported me to him because he didn't like me because of YouTube content, and he had my address because he'd previously sold me something, and I didn't even know I bought this from him. But, you know, it's one of those things where somebody was selling something on eBay, I bought it, they recognized my name, and then obviously looked up the address and recognized that it must have been me. That they kept my name down for ages. As soon as I had some sort of disagreement with them on YouTube, I think because of some kind of like commie shit they were into or whatever else, they reported me to the police and they reported me for the radioactive stuff I own. But the problem was that the stuff they reported me for was the most tame shit ever. It was thorium. So the police came, I answered all their questions, said, look, do you want to look through all my stuff? Here we are, you're here, you can have a look. And I think they realized quite quickly their time was being wasted. Because like I said, as much as now and again I might say spicy stuff, and I've got a lot of stuff, all the stuff I own is legal. Yeah, it's basically they were trying to get me swatted, Kevin. Yeah, it's just they ended up wasting police time. And unsurprisingly, this person, one of the people that they were like collaborating with to get all my details and that, ended up getting done for being a gay paedophile. So, you know, you get all that sort of stuff. Yeah, weekend shifts do suck, gas mask gallon. But yeah, so it's always weird with these people, isn't it? How they're always the worst fucking possible people that try and dox people and shit like that. Yep. Because he was, yes, in the Foreign Brigade or whatever it was called, the International Legion in the Spanish Civil War. Like I said, I like Orwell because, yeah, Orwell was a socialist, but he was the kind of based kind of socialist, you know, that thought people should be armed to protect their liberties and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. It's like when I'm seeing some of the Karens in, where is it, Minnesota at the moment, Kevin, on some of the Asmongold videos who are fucking mental. Yeah, it's the sort of person that if they have a disagreement with you, they want to ruin your life because, again... But again, I don't even know what I really did to anger that person too much. Because if somebody blocked me on something because I was saying political stuff and they were of a different political persuasion, I wasn't really friends with them, I think, so what? But this was somebody that basically was then posting my name and address online afterwards to go like, oh, look, here's his name and address, unless you know, like, give me a load of money or something to something. All right, Zardovskoy, or if I've said your name all right. But the funny thing is getting doxed in some ways was good, as I've said before, because any company I was a bit on the fence with, if they wanted to send me free samples that I wouldn't originally give my address out to, I was like, well, I've been doxed now. Here's my address. You can send me all the free shit you want. Yeah, Asmongold was the reason I found out about the Pathways game, even though I'm in the UK and I thought I'd have found out about it from a UK YouTuber first, even though I know some of them did cover it before him. His was the one that, again, I don't watch him really live on Twitch because too many people are on there. I just normally watch the highlight stuff, you know, where he's talked about stuff. And again, like with that, you don't have to agree with all those people's opinions. I just find him quite funny and some of the stuff he covers funny. But yeah, oh, and Michael, the answer to that is yes, but unfortunately on YouTube, with all their policies now, I can't talk about any of the websites I may or may not have bought stuff like that from. Watch on YouTube, quite a lot of people. Weapon Collector is one of the channels a bit like mine that I watch. A lot of the time, though, I just use YouTube to watch history stuff, podcasts, stuff like that. And again, there are a lot of channels that now and again I watch their videos, but I don't actively, you know, seek out all their videos. Forgotten Weapons, I watch quite a lot of their videos, and Leeds Armory, you know, with Jonathan Ferguson, with the guns there. And I'm visiting Leeds Armory next month, by the way, so I'll film some stuff up there when I'm there. But I'm not going there, sadly, to shoot a load of their stuff and look at the private collection. I'm just going there as a tourist to Leeds Armory, because a couple of my mates live in Leeds, so when I go to visit them, I'm going to go to Leeds Armory at the same time. But yeah, I just watch quite a lot of stuff. Sometimes I just use YouTube to listen to music. Isn't Malcolm his brother? That's Malk. Malk is his brother. That's Johnny Rambo or whatever his username is. Weapon Collector is Mike, but they're brothers, yeah, and they're like nearly identical twins. I can't remember if they're identical twins or like nearly identical. But yeah, Malk's his brother, Malcolm, and Weapon Collector's Mike. And I've visited him twice. Again, I won't say where he lives because, you know, he only gives his address out to people he trusts. But I have visited him a couple of times. He's a nice bloke. It depends what the war is. But if you're on about, would I join the army to fight for Keir Starmer? No. And also there was a thing recently about them calling up previous British Army veterans, like, you know, to just be automatically enlisted. And a lot of them said, you're off your fucking, you know, rocker. If, you know, you think these old grumpy squaddies are going to want to be joining up and doing what Keir tells them. Yeah, Mike got bitten by somebody, and I think it got infected, if I remember right. Again, you'd have to listen to the story from me. It was actually in the chat earlier. I don't know if you're still here. But I think if the story goes right, and again, you'd have to ask him, was that somebody bit him. He was in the police station when it was infected, and the police wouldn't let him get antibiotics or whatever, so it got like worse and got scarred, where the person, you know, bit him, because, you know, some police aren't very nice. And again, like I've said before with police, it completely depends to me on the attitude of the police. The police that, you know, join the police force because they want to catch actual proper criminals and do a good job, I've got a lot of respect for. The problem is how the UK police has been politicised so much now, you know, like policing tweets and like I say, when I had to hand in like my guns because some of them, you know, the law had changed, there was no buyback, and then that was a massive hassle to hand them in. So eventually, essentially, I was being criminalised if I didn't get rid of them. But I had to get rid of them, kind of thing, you know, and hand them into the police. And then they made it as difficult as possible, even though they'd made, you know, changed the law for anybody who legitimately owned all those before. I don't know if it might have been a drug addict or like some sort of weirdo, Kevin. Again, it's probably a sort of, you know, type of meth heads that, you know, scratch and knife people and bite them and whatever else. Not anything serious, Ben. Like I said, I've got two air rifles that, you know, you can obviously use for rabbits and crows and pigeons and stuff, but not done anything like that in years, and never anything big game like deer or anything like that. Again, I quite like animals, don't really like shooting. Like, again, it's one of those things where if it's a really serious pest control reason, I agree with it, and especially if you're then eating the meat afterwards as well, not just shooting them for the sake of shooting them. Or, you know, like there's a reason you're doing it to preserve some sort of thing because, you know, one animal's numbers are too much, or you're doing it because you're starving and need the food. But I don't enjoy shooting stuff for the fun of shooting stuff. I enjoy shooting targets, you know, like metal targets or whatever, but I don't like the idea of killing animals or people for fun. Well, okay, I'm not going to say too much about people because if I'm already on Keir's list, I want to be careful what I say. But, you know, like the idea is, even though I like guns and stuff like that, I don't like the idea of just shooting stuff for the sake of shooting it because, you know, it makes my dick feel big or something like that, you know, for shooting a badger or something. Yeah, I've seen stuff like that. But again, sometimes with stuff like that, the people then get them back and get a lot of compensation if they get a good lawyer. There's specifically, I was saying this to people earlier when people were asking about it. I specifically, when there were loads of people getting done for tweets last year, I think it was, I've joined the Free Speech Union. You have to pay a yearly fee, but they take up a lot of cases if people get, you know, arrested and charged with anything related to speech related stuff or lose their job, you know, and then want to sue their employees because of stuff they posted online. Because, you know, I like the idea that I pay a yearly fee that isn't that much, and then if I get dragged in front of the courts for saying hurty words online, even if I didn't mean anything bad by them, you know, I can get a good lawyer to back me up and then hopefully get compensation for me if the state takes shitty actions like that. Yeah, exactly. I really don't like trophy hunting MCAS. Like I said, even though I like guns and that. And again, I can understand it if it's done to keep certain animal numbers in line and then, you know, keep in head because it looks nice and stuff like that. But the idea of people were like, oh, I'm some rich dentist and I want somebody to drive me out in like a Jeep into a field, line up the animal perfectly for me. You know, I am not a fan of that at all. But like I said, it's just one of those things, isn't it? And again, yeah, but I won't be on too much longer. Yeah, deer stalking is expensive in the UK. And it's one of those things that's probably a lot easier to do in Scotland, isn't it? Where there's a lot more deer population. We normally around here get just deer that killed a roadkill and damage people's cars. like muntjacs and stuff like that. Muntjacs are weird because they're not fucking indigenous to the UK, are they? I only learnt that a while ago. They're some sort of Asian deer, aren't they? As in like Japanese or something. I can't remember if they're Japanese or somewhere else from Asia. But they're ones that basically at one point, I think in the 1800s, some guy had them in a private zoo. Enough of them got out and they've bred and survived really well in the UK that muntjac are almost like an actual species here now. It might have been China, I'm not sure. Muntjac are the ones with the really creepy scent glands on their nose if you see them from the right angle. That, you know, they don't look, they look quite cute from the side, but I'm going to... Hang on. So they don't have a K on the end of muntjac. Okay, muntjac deer. So this, right, so I'm going to get you two pictures up of a muntjac. I'm going to get you what they look at like when you're just looking at them and you go, oh, that's kind of cute. So this is a munt, and again, I don't have a problem with muntjac, by the way. But I'm just going to see if I can get this sort of thing up to show you. They've got these weird like pheromone things near their eyes. So this is what a muntjac looks like when you just see one in the distance or whatever. And they're kind of deer are very noisy when they're having sex, aren't they? A bit like foxes. But yeah, it says muntjac, but here's their creepy little like scent glands. Can I get a better angle of that? Muntjac gland. Yeah, that is literally a search because they're so well known for having creepy little scent glands. I'm just trying to find a good picture of it. There's like YouTube videos you can find on this where their glands are doing like that as they eat and like sniff at stuff. And I don't want one where there's somebody fucking reacting to it. Okay, this is a good one because it looks like it's got some parasitic worm coming out of its face. But yeah, muntjac deer have those weird scent glands that are like sort of like on their face like that. Like they've got some, I think, on that bit where their nose are, and they've got the bits right in their eyes. So sometimes if you see videos from right angle, they've got like these weird fleshy things coming out of their face. So again, they look cute from a distance. I don't have any problem with them. But yeah, apparently they're kind of like an invasive species in the UK. They're not naturally here, but in the Victorian era, somebody had some in a zoo. They escaped, they've bred pretty well, and they're over most of the UK now. And, you know, you wouldn't know they're not native because they've adapted so well to the climate and everything else. So yeah. Yeah, Australia is really interesting because there's also a genre of film that I'm going to really recommend to people who haven't watched them. Again, I can't remember too many of the films by name, but it is a genre. So, you know, you have American Westerns. There's a thing about Australian Westerns. And it's basically about, you know, kind of the period where it was a really lawless bit of, you know, various territories and that. And because Australia is such a big country, you know, back in the 1800s, it made complete sense, you know, in the sort of 1850s to 1900s, that you could have an Australian Western genre with like Ned Kelly type people. And there's some really good, you know, like kind of done like the spaghetti Western style things. Is Quigley Down Under set? I suppose it is with the Down Under. I haven't seen Quigley in ages though, but he's got the, is it the Sharps rifle in that where he does the really accurate shot on the bucket or whatever it is? But yeah, but there are some really good things because, like, I saw a video where people were saying, like, where would you set a Red Dead Redemption game if it wasn't set in the American West? And I was literally saying to people, Australia, because Australia would be the only place I think you could do a really good game like Red Dead Redemption if it wasn't set in America. The Proposition, let me look up which one that is, Stu. There's one that I saw that was really good, but I cannot think for the life of me what the name of it was. So what's the plot of The Proposition? A lawman apprehends notorious outlaws and gives knives over to kill his older brother, also execute his younger brother. I haven't seen that one, but I'll have to watch that. The one I've seen, if people are familiar with a lot of them, they might know it by the description. It's one where, like, the guy has people after him, and they take his daughter, like, hostage and captive to use, like, a slave or whatever. And he's, like, being transferred by a lawman, but the lawman, like, lets him go out almost like he's escaped to kill the people to rescue his daughter before handing himself back in to be hanged or whatever it was, or do hard labor. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a very good one, you know, where it's like, so it's about kind of this lawman and that who doesn't like the guy, but kind of understands his moral compass, even if he's a criminal. And like, you know, and obviously the villains in it are really nasty. So it's about, you know, this guy who's kind of out revenge in a sort of Taken style way. Yeah, and with pigeons, obviously you get different types of pigeons, don't you? Because you get the interesting thing we get in the UK, and probably the same in the States, where you get like wood pigeons and stuff, which are like the naturally coloured pigeons, and then you get the city pigeons, which are kind of like the weird, sort of weirdly bred ones, like almost like feral rat kind of pigeons. But yeah, I can't think. I might have a Google it. See if Australian Western film about a man rescuing his daughter. It says The Proposition, but that's not the fucking one, because that's not Stuart. Thank you for getting that wrong, AI. Again, all the things coming up in the suggestions are completely wrong, as typical with a Google search nowadays, even though I've given it the main plot point. I'm just going to look on a list of Australian Westerns to see if I can, it's on any of those. Mad Max is for some reason on the list of Australian Westerns. I can kind of see why people would consider Mad Max a Western, but it's not a Western. Again, Quigley Down Under's on this list. But yeah, The Proposition keeps getting mentioned by people, but there's a good one, so I have to watch that. I haven't actually seen that, but again, I don't know what does anybody thought of what the film was? I'll ask ChatGPT quickly before I go off, just in case, because sometimes ChatGPT is better than Google for actually. What is the name of the Australian Western film about a convict who has to rescue his daughter? There's some of the shootouts are really good and gory in it. You know, like people again. Oh, what's also that really bleak Australian kind of Western film? Is it like Van Somebody's Land? About like some convicts that escape and then they like turn to cannibalism and that? Again, it's coming up with The Nightingale, which isn't the right film. No, this is about a man having to rescue his daughter. Is it Van Diemen's Land? Van Diemen's Land. Van Diemen's Land? Yeah, if that was the name of the film, yeah. Set in 1820. That's not the one I'm on about. I mean, Van Diemen's Land's a good film, but that's not the one I'm on about. But yeah, that was the one I was on about when I was on about. So yeah, when I was on about Van Diemen's Land, that definitely sounds about right, with the people like axing somebody in the head and them eating each other. That was when I was on about that one, that's correct. But the other one I was on about, again, why are these things so shit now, where you literally give them most of the plot points and it keeps coming up with completely random other fucking films that aren't related. But yeah, so this Australian Western, if anyone finds it, it was on Prime at one point. Like where you could watch it free. Australian Western films on Prime Video. I'm just seeing if I can find it on there. The Rover's good as well, but that's not really a Western. But if you like Mad Max, you might like The Rover. But again, that's not the one I'm thinking of. The Decadent and the Depraved sounds about right. Let me read up what happens in that. In a remote and dark place in the outback of Western Australia, the wanted man, Leon Murphy, leaves his family in a bid to ensure their safety. While being transported by Captain Dalton, Leon's daughter is captured by the cruel Maitland. The journey soon becomes a chaotic tale of revenge and murder within the ever-changing terrain of Western Australia. That's it, The Decadent and the Depraved, or The Decadent and Depraved. But it's, again, one where, of course, if you actually search for the plot points, the fucking thing doesn't come up because of how bad modern search engines are. But, yeah, it's The Decadent and Depraved I'd recommend. And like I said, I'll have to definitely check out... I need to rewatch Quigley Down Under as well, but The Proposition as well. Cheers. They're a bit brains-like from Thunderbirds, but yeah, the main reason I got these is because they're actually quite comfortable on my face. Now, I've got the answer now, thanks, Zach. But yeah, some AIs are better than others. Yeah, all AIs are equal, but some AIs are more equal than others. But yeah, anyway, I'll be off now because I've been on quite a while. And again, another film that's kind of like a Western style one I really like is nothing to do like the Western sort of genre, if that makes sense, is There Will Be Blood. The one with what's his name? I drink your milkshake. Daniel Day-Lewis. I drink it up. Drain it, Eli. Yeah, There Will Be Blood is brilliant, but again, it's sort of, I say Western because it's like when it's like sort of the settlement of California, isn't it? How he sort of builds all the towns and the oil wells and that, and it's him going further and further into like alcoholism and becoming a cunt. But yeah, Unforgiven, I'll definitely have to check out. Proposition. Unforgiven's a American style Western though, isn't it? Yeah. If I've got a straw, and you've got a straw, my straw goes across the room, and I drink your milkshake. Yeah. I fucking love how nuts that guy gets by the end of that film. But yeah, it's quite a long film. I know some people have watched that and found it really, really boring, but I really like There Will Be Blood, and I've like rewatched it like 6 or 7 times because it's a fucking excellent film. Bone Tomahawk's good. Yeah, I like that guy's other films because he did Dragged Across Concrete, didn't he? And Brawl in Cell Block, whatever it is. And I think a couple of other like quite gory films. Yeah, Gangs in New York I thought was all right. There's bits of that I think are very good, but I found Gangs in New York kind of a film that just dragged on a bit for me. But yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis is good in it, and like Liam Neeson sadly is killed off in it really early on. But that's a good film. And again, the bit that's quite good in that is the bit showing the draft riots, or whatever they're called, when you know, like the union starts conscripting people for the Civil War, and then everybody goes fucking nuts because they don't want to die for like the blackies or whatever they say. Probably words I can't say on YouTube. But yeah, that again, it's not. I'm definitely not saying it's a bad film, but it's one of those films where I think there could have been a cut of it where they cut a lot of stuff out, because there were bits in it where I definitely was like watch checking quite frequently, where normally, you know, if a film's good for me with its pacing, it's one where I'm completely captivated by what I'm watching and I'm not sort of thinking yeah, exactly, Rajiv. It's not great, but it's good. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, there are a lot of films though where I think sometimes there should be either a longer or a shorter cut of it, depending on, you know, how well they've done the cut. Because there's definitely films I like, but I think, why is that scene necessary? Or like, why is half that scene necessary for, you know, where it's just kind of like they're padding out the runtime. Last of the Mohicans, haven't watched that in ages, need to watch that again. Wasn't Last of the Mohicans the one he got, was it pneumonia or something? Or hypothermia because he refused to sleep in a hotel room and slept in a tent? The Dredd remake is very good. That's the Alex Garland one, isn't it? And annoyingly, that was one where, although everybody liked the film, the studio did a really bad job of promoting it, so it flopped at the time because people didn't know it even came out. And even though like the fans really like it. Yeah, because like with There Will Be Blood, Rajiv, I swear he's actually completely shit-faced in a lot of the bits where he's playing somebody that's drunk. Like, and again, I know people are, oh, in Hollywood, actors don't really drink. They drink like fake whiskey or whatever. But in some of the scenes where he's drunk, I don't think he can be acting like that drunk. Like, I think he's like got drunk enough that he can still remember all his lines and that. But like, especially that bit where he's putting a napkin over his face in the thing, you know, when the people are in like that like restaurant or whatever, and he's going fucking nuts. Yeah, Lena Headey is very fit. I agree. I always like women with like the tomboy sort of pixie cut. I always find that quite hot. Yeah, like I said, Daniel Day-Lewis is a really fucking good actor. Although sadly, I think he's retired from acting now, hasn't he? But again, you know, he was one of those people that didn't agree to lots of films, but if he acted in them, he put in a lot of effort. Oh, yeah, Apocalypse Now, Rajiv, is one that is completely fucking nuts if you read the history of, like, how many drugs and how many drunk people were on set. and like how fucking like off the rails it goes. Wasn't that the one where the director said it nearly gave him a heart attack or a stroke or something? Yeah, because it's based on Heart of Darkness. Brutal Times, War of Independence. Let me look it up. The Irish War of Independence, brutal conflict. Is that the one you're on about? The Irish War of Independence, like Easter Rebellion and stuff like that? Or you on about an American War of Independence thing? Let me type IMDb and see if it comes up. Again, at the moment, there's stuff coming up that's not really related to what you said, but anyway, go back to the chat. Oh, Turn. Isn't it like Turn Washington Spies or something? It is called, isn't it? Oh, over here, I think it was called Washington Spies. There's Turn Washington Spies, TV series 2014 to 2017, if that's the one. A Long Island farmer bands together with a group of childhood friends to form an unlikely group of spies who turn the tide in America's fight of independence. That one? Because if so, I've seen it on Prime, but I've never watched it. As in, like, you know, I've seen it was one of the series at one point that you used to be able to watch on there. Jamie Bow, Heather Lynn, Samuel Rukin, Seth Numerick, Daniel Henschel, Megan Warner, Kevin McNally, Bern Gorman. That the one? I'll go back to the chat again. I do need to go off in a minute. All right, so yeah, it's probably one that's got a different name in here than the States, but yeah. So as long as it's a better War of Independence thing, I'm sure it is, than the Patriot. I kind of like the Patriot, but it's fucking just Braveheart in the American War of Independence. Fighting these rustics almost takes the honor out of victory. Almost. But I do like the Patriot, but it's very much the stosh twirling British villains that are completely incompetent rather than actually being a proper you know, the whole thing about taxation without representation. Right, if it's nothing like the Patriot, I'll probably like it. Because again, that's the problem with Braveheart and the Patriot. It's that I can still enjoy them even though I'm English, but it's very much the fucking English. Let's make a film about how evil they are. Yeah, like I said, it's just the problem is I enjoy them for what they are. They're just not accurate. Yeah, like I said, I like Braveheart, but yeah, it's just totally wrong. Exactly. You can have films like that are enjoyable historical films, but they're not accurate historical films. Oh yeah, so that it played out exactly like that. But speaking of games about the American Revolution, I was playing quite a bit recently. Where's the icon on my desktop so I can tell you the thing? It was made by the people that did the American Civil War game. So it's not Ultimate General Civil War, because that's the one in the American Civil War where you can play as either the Union or Confederates. I think it's called something like Ultimate General American Revolution or something like that. And that's all right. It's like I said, it's only all right if you like Total War style games. All right, Mike OR, but yeah, I'm afraid I am off in a minute because, like I said, I've been on 2 hours now. But thank you for everybody that's come on and liked the stream. Well, I will watch the pilot. Like I said, at the moment, the nice thing is because I'm doing YouTube as my full-time job until I find something else again, I've at least got time to watch series again now, which was the problem I hated sometimes when I was doing other jobs where you wouldn't really have the energy when you finish work to sit down and watch anything because I'd start falling asleep in my chair. So, but yeah, tonight I'm just going to probably play some games with some mates and watch like the thing Rajiv sent me, like Citizen Arrays and that by Muse. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So yeah, like I said, in the next couple of days, there are regular YouTube shorts and all that going up as you'd expect. But yeah, Sharp is great. I haven't actually watched Sharp in India, which is apparently pretty good as well. Like, you know, I know it's not filmed at the same time, but Patrick with the whatever barrel gun. God, what was it? God Save Ireland. That one. Say it. Yeah, of course I like fucking Sharp with Sean Bean and that. Jeremiah Johnson, I've watched that. Yep, the bloke who played him died recently. Was that Robert Redford, whoever it was? But yeah, I didn't actually realize it was him in Jeremiah Johnson, or I probably didn't forgot. But yeah, I've seen Jeremiah Johnson. It's where the very famous reaction image comes from, isn't it? Where he turns around and smiles or whatever it is. And that's like a famous reaction gif, but it's from Jeremiah Johnson. Yeah, Chudways, I've got a bookmark, but I don't have time to play it all now. Like I said, some of my mates are in a game, so I'm probably going to hop in a multiplayer game while they're on before because again, some of them are only free at the weekend. So if I don't hop in a game with them in a minute, I won't get a chance to play with them. But yeah. With Sharp, the thing I like doing most is, on first sighting the enemy, I did whatever, that's my style. You know, doing the fucking Henry Simpson. The fault was not mine, sir. Major Lennox must after. Major Lennox answered with his life, as you should have done. Okay, but yeah, like I said, I'm still not going to do it at the moment, because otherwise I'm going to get sidetracked with other things and then not get a chance to play some of my games with my mates. But, anyway, yeah, so, yeah, well, what I was saying anyway, before I got distracted is, yeah, so the dystopian sequel to Pathways about Keir Starmer's authoritarian Britain, although I'm going to have to be careful in it that I make clear it's a work of fiction, just with characters based on real characters in it, in case they think I'm making some, like, British Revolution call to violence sort of propaganda and they gulag me. I'll have to try and be careful with it that way, but it will be hopefully a funny piss take for people. But like I said, my channel doesn't really revolve around Pathways, even though a lot of people have found my channel because of that. I'd much rather, after I've done that Pathways thing, I don't mind now and again talking about stupid UK government policies. So like I said, I do like making kind of piss take videos every now and then, like parodies of weapon bans and stuff like that. But yeah, the point is that, you know, most of the time my videos are about gas masks and like the Geiger counters and the compasses and whatever else. So, you know, most of the time that'll be the videos I'm making. But yeah, in the next couple of days, when I get it all put together, I will do kind of an animated Pathways spin-off sequel thing that hopefully, if the people get notified I made it, like the people who watch the other one, they'll enjoy it, and every now and then it will get me a load of views and a bit of money trickling in. You know, before I guess Pathways becomes something people completely forget about and Amelia's not mentioned anymore, you know, and, you know, a different kind of thing happens. But yeah, anyway, have a good evening, everyone. Like I said, I'm going to hopefully play some games with some mates before they all go offline. And, yeah, have a good thing. Have a good evening. Don't forget to click like on the stream if you people on here haven't liked it already. And I will hopefully be on for a stream tomorrow at some point. But otherwise, I'm going to be trying to finish editing together that Pathways video. I've made most of the assets for it. I still need to do some of the audio. But voice cloning, I've already got the voice clone and everything, so that's not very difficult. I just sometimes have to re-render speech if it mispronounces a word, you know. And yeah, then it's just animating the still images, but some of them are just going to be still images. Some of them are just going to be, you know, characters walking around and doing stuff. So all the best. Salute. Yeah, right. See you all. And I will be on hopefully tomorrow if I get time. Otherwise, I'm editing videos together tomorrow. And then, yeah, anyway, I won't keep waffling on. Yeah, see you all. Have a good evening. Goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen. Das Vidania.